Yeah, hopefully. Okay. Hey guys, welcome to the mixer. And I think Nitin made a lot of points. As I said, I was really googling. I was trying to understand some of the things which he was talking about. And this K shape actually looks really scary to me. But unfortunately, that exactly is exactly how I am looking at the world from the numbers currently. And I'm sure. Hey, somebody's saying that not able to look at the
We'll
panelists.
just check. We'll just check this. Yeah.
Please switch to the gallery view for all the audience. Um, so I'll start with Pravesh. You've seen the best days of the nightlife in Bangalore, and not only uh, pandemic has taken away a lot of liberty, to gather in groups and to really party. But then, I think governments have been really divided across the country on whether to start alcohol or not, and that adds another layer of uncertainty. Anyway, audience is confused and scared and paranoid and wondering whether to go out or not. And then on top of it, if the authorities also do not instill a lot of confidence, or rather lock it down, that becomes a much bigger dampener. I'm sure that what's going on in the market, specifically in Bangalore, with some of the top places not may not really survive, or may not really retain the health or the shape, even if they survive in some other form. What has been your learning so far, and how do you look at the current situation beyond COVID? How do you see the reshaping? You can answer that from your perspective on the industry, or we will also assume that some of it is coming from your understanding of Big Brewski. But how do you see what shape the industry is going to retain, or especially the entertainment and nightlife?
Thanks, Ashish. Yes, obviously, there has been a fair amount of learning in the last 2 months. There was a sort of vengeance shopping which was seen in the first week of September when the bar licenses were allowed. And obviously, for us, there was no other option of not opening the restaurant. We were not getting any sort of um, leeway from the landlords, and the cost of uh, maintaining the restaurant was quite high. So even if we would have opened the restaurant or would have shut the restaurant, the kind of burns we were going through was pretty much the same. What had been a good sign has been, which is seen, is outside the restaurants, outside the four wall of restaurant, the delivery business has been quite great, and I think it has gone beyond 100% of pre-COVID cases. That has been a good sign. But having said this, the delivery business has always been contributing to up to 15% in the overall business. That does not really make a huge difference to us uh, in terms of uh, managing the burns. So when it comes to with the footfalls within the four walls of the restaurant, I have seen a very uh, slight improvement in my earlier restaurant, which is in Sarjapur, which is about 28,000 square feet. But I've seen a very good sign of incremental footfall in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And the good thing is that week on week, uh, same day, same week, the numbers are growing up by 13% to 14%, which means that we are slightly heading towards a good space where we can start breaking even in the month of November. So that has been going around in the market. For bars, one key notice point here I want to share is that people are also, when they're heading into bars, quite surprisingly, they are not really responsible enough to maintain the social distancing, which was also a worry. And recently, when we picked up an example of one of the dhabas in Delhi where 65 cases of positive contracted employees were found in the dhaba, the restaurant was sealed down. So my another worry was to manage the crowd which was coming on Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, and that became an instant focus point for me and my entire team. Um, and I realized that consumers will continue to come, yes, the number is right now 30 to 35% of what we used to do before the COVID. But it's it's equally important for us to be responsible to maintain that hygiene, that sort of COVID standards, and to a certain extent, we have to be also forcing it on the customers, because consumers are sort of not really showing that sort of responsibility. So while there is a good sign that restaurants are seeing green shoots of business coming in inside the restaurant, however, I think it's extremely important for us to maintain high levels of standards.
No, that absolutely. I think that is one challenge which I can clearly see that industry is looking all around. Ramya, from you, you people run both hotels and the restaurants, and I'm sure that your experience has been you know your exposure to the heat which COVID brought in is a little different. More or less we will hear from you, but it's very different from regular restaurateurs. And I'm sure you had the double responsibility to not only instill the highest level of confidence in the guest who's coming, who's planning to come to the hotel, and then to its restaurant as well. How are you prioritizing this, and what has been your learning in the successes and the failures, for communicating this first, and then actually practicing this on, implementing it on ground? What are the successes? What are the failures? How has the life been, last 2-3 months?
Okay, so I think I'm on mute.
No, you're audible.
Yeah, okay. So unlike the other restaurants, it was different in the case of Nandana, right? So we were operational throughout, right? So during the lockdown, we were, in fact, we had a delivery division which was running delivery and takeaway at a little later point in time. So, but in fact, all in all, currently where we stand is a very positive in terms of how the month-on-month growth is, right? The last month was very, very, the numbers were, in fact, as far as delivery is concerned, we nearly hit the pre-COVID numbers, right? So that was something which all in all, it was very encouraging, very motivating for us. But as far as the as far as the restaurant industry is concerned, the fact that week on week we do see customers coming into our restaurant. The fact that, and the main aspect is, we function only with 50% of the capacity. Like typically, the weekend, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Nandana would have huge waiting crowds, right? But the fact that we, function only at a 50% capacity, and further we have to restrict, the waiting crowd as well. So that has obviously got on to a pain point, and that was initially very hard for us to control, to keep up the social distancing norms. But however, it was a learning for us, and I think our customers already have understood when we have the social distancing norms instilled in the restaurant. We have very much accepted it, and week on week it's getting better, and so hence we are very positive of how it's heading. But as far as the hotels, since you also referred to that, so that has to pick up, right? So I think when the tourism probably opens up completely, that's when we would also see, and when travelers also enter Bangalore, that's when we would see a positive growth there.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Biraja, you run a third, kind of operation, which is, I assume that much more delivery friendly, apart from the takeaway and dine in. And my assumption, and rather I would also say that, our experience is that a lot of brands, who built a lot of trust in the customers early on, and who already had a loyal, set of customers. And I specifically saw in your introduction that, you guys boast of spending less than 1% of your revenue on marketing, which is quite a stat, and I would love to take a deep dive in that. What has been your experience in this in the COVID times? Did you find yourself on the neutral or the positive side of crisis?
So being very frank, the initial days were negative, as it was for the whole ecosystem, but gradually as the numbers are growing up and trust on the brand is going up, so we are seeing a positive hope. So what happened is, as a brand, we are located in different cities, T1, T2, T3, T4. So all the categories of cities, whatever it may be, we are there. We are there with a population of 2 CR plus. We are there with a population of 2 lakh plus also, that type of cities. So during this COVID period, definitely the dining was impacted, but we found a great amount of trust within the consumers who were moving out of Bangalore to their native cities, let's say may it be Bokaro or Jharkhand, Ranchi or Bhubaneswar, Cuttack. So we got those repeat customers over there as an online consumer. So with that trust, the numbers are increasing definitely. And with that number, the energy in the team is increasing. And with that energy, the responsibility also increases. So it is not only about the numbers. The numbers will fall like a cascade if we don't adhere to our responsibilities on proper time. So yes, definitely it has been a tough time, but it has made us to learn the knowledge of a complete era, probably a decade. What we would have not learned, we have learned during this 3 or 4 months.
Biraja,
And
what is that one thing which you feel that you learned? And I think you're making a great point there. What is one thing which you feel you learned as a chain, one or two things which you believe you could not have learned in, let's say, a decade or 5 years?
uh, how to prioritize your SOP? Very simple. How to prioritize your demand.
Anecdote, any example?
Any example, let's say as a restaurant, like in our industry, in the QSR segment, technology plays a vital role. In technology, again, there are different type of hierarchies, whether POS, whether loyalty program or whatever. Had we not been on the right technology, we would not have tracked which customer is going where and are they our repeat consumer or not. So previously it was not a priority. So now it is to become a brand, it's not about the numbers, it's not about the top line, it's not about the fancy sort of thing. It's all about how you are adhering to the ethics of the business. How are the bottom lines for your survival, and how are the so quality, all these parameters are always there. There are 100 brands who are giving. Now quality has not been the basic parameter because it is there from last 1 decade. Now it is all about the dynamic change of expectation of a consumer, and how quickly are you responding to it.
So
So
I think you made a very strong point there, and that's a great one. I can tell you from our experience, and if I add to this, you know, uh, why specifically I asked you, did you find yourself on the positive side of crisis? Because in to our surprise and not much of a surprise, I think brands who actually always invested in their customer, their end customer, the customer loyalty, and who also invested in the practices which brew a lot of trust in the consumers automatically, have consistently done well even in the crisis. I mean, I can tell you that we know some of the brands who I know personally have recovered 90% plus in their pre-COVID revenue numbers, just on takeaway and delivery. And though these were semi-casual to fine dine, brands range. So I was definite. I mean, not only they themselves were not expecting, their deliveries to go 3x, to 4x. That said, Pravesh, has there been any time where you felt that, okay, the loyal customers, as Biraja is talking about, and I think it applies to all of us, no matter what format are we running. What has been your experience with customer loyalty? Has that been one of the one of the hooks which keeps any of the suffering brand alive right now? Or do you think no, anyway, once we are able to open back with the right health, consumers will come in and people will be able to get back to the same business even though they did not have a loyal base or a brand?
Well, Ashish, I think with my experience, especially in the last 1 month, just like Ramya, we were operational throughout the COVID period. But in the last 2 to 3 weeks, I've seen that your customers who have been coming to you will definitely come back. That is given. But what is more important is what are you doing to regain their trust? Because the expectations, as Biraja was saying, has changed now. Food quality has been there from the last 1 decade. If you are a brand which has been focusing and playing strong on the food quality, it's important now to keep building the trust now. And that's where the SOPs come into the picture. If you broadly look at what is it that we can do or Big Brewski is doing to bringing customer back, is accentuating what we have been doing very good. And now thinking about 3 C's. One is care. There is a very small attention of care which has been given by us in the pre-COVID era. Now there is more attempt which has been going while the security guard is screening or taking the body temperature. There's a lot of care going in, right? There's a lot of care which has been practiced. We have put in some extra efforts in ensuring that every checkpoint, right from restroom to the receptionist to the security guard, these are touch points where we have to exhibit care. The second is the corrective tools and technologies. Uh, it's important for us to realize that the trust will be built, especially when people are not touching too many points, right? So the whole SOP, the sequence of service, what we call in hospitality, has changed. This required a lot of brainstorming and then at the same time an extensive training because employees are not really used to following the new standards, right? So and at another side, the cost retrenchment strategies could not allow us to make um, um, could not allow us to retain a lot of employees. So the technology inputs in the current sequence of service has been highly instrumental. For example, contactless dining. We cannot afford to have more people on the floor, so we are requesting consumers to our guests to take orders by themselves. And there is now an introduction of food ambassador who is doing a job of 5 people, what 5 people are doing. So he's just going and he's suggesting people to what to order on the app rather than taking their orders. We're not encouraging taking orders right now.
This food ambassador, can you elaborate a little more on exactly what do you mean by that? Are we talking about somebody on the floor who is now dedicatedly taking orders and rest of the people are only delivering the orders to the table? Or...
Yeah, earlier, Ashish, the organization structure used to be a manager, floor manager, then the supervisor, then there is a server who's the order taker, and there is a runner. I've just changed the whole organization structure and I just called it 2 positions. One is the food ambassador and second is a runner, right? There's no order taker, there's no manager, there's no supervisor, there's nothing required. All you need to do right now is to let people know that this is what is our USP. And if they're a vegetarian, non-vegetarian, this is what they should try to order. Something which is not available, that should be communicated to the customer. And food ambassador's job is that, as simple as it could be. Now, if he's not literally punching orders on the POS tab, then what is he supposed to do? He can take all his time to build relationship with guests, take care of them, and just simply ask them to use the QR code to place an order. So his job is now handling 40 tables by just moving around and suggesting food orders instead of now managing small things, right? So now a customer is placing an order, the order goes to the KDS in the kitchen. There is one food pickup guy who comes and delivers it on the table. So on the floor, the second person who is now the second designation, what we have called is a runner. His job is just to clear the table, put it on the side station, clear the side station, and just essentially do the most important task of maintaining the table. As simple as that. Right? The food will come on.
That's a very, very solid point. I can tell you that over the years, whenever we travel outside the country, and especially in the West or maybe a little more costlier geographies, even in the East, for example, you go to Singapore, and I've always been amazed and surprised by one or two captains or in your ambassador is a very, very cool a designation or a word. I think I've always been surprised that how efficiently some of the top dining restaurants have been doing in geographies like Singapore. And especially when we go from India where the labor is cheap and we have a lot of people, we wonder that why can't we run it like that. And then I think we've always resigned on the fact that probably we don't have the need enough, and I think COVID has created need. One thing I can definitely tell you is that we can clearly see massive penetration of technology, just because of the fact that now the pressure on delivering more value by a human in that moment for the customer has really, really gone up. So Pravesh, you have made a significant point. From a 4-level hierarchy, you've gone to 2, and which is now very, very, clear in the delivery of what a customer wants. And one point I will highlight is that you're saying that someone who's taking the order ideally should also be adding value to that by sensitizing the customer or educating the customer about what should be ordered, what should not be ordered, and what they like,
Absolutely.
etc. If customer has to just place the order, they ideally should be able to use the technology and do it themselves.
Absolutely. So that was the second C, Ashish. The third C was basically the creative thinking. It's also very important at this point of time that once you are caring your consumers, your customers, second, you have implemented some creative tools and technologies. It's also about creatively thinking what else new, right? Consumers are coming out. At the end of the day, we are an entertainment industry. We are not a food and beverage industry. I think in NRI somewhere I read that after Bollywood, this is the second largest entertainment industry. So we need to continue entertaining people. At this point of time, we thought that music is important. Should we cut down the cost on putting bands? I said no. At the end of the day, even if it's 50% occupancy, just continue to make people happy. Yeah. And obviously, we renegotiate to musicians, to bands, and so on and so forth. But creatively, we have to constantly think what next new. So we're now launching a new food menu, which is a festival of chow mein, which is back to the nostalgia. And then we are doing a gin revival season 2. This is the perfect, like generally people would say this is not the time to do something. Let's wait for the market to recover. I told the team that this is the time to discover something new. Don't wait for the recovery. This will never recover. We will never be going to hit 100% of the business for the next 1.5 years. Doesn't look like this. So let's quickly be agile and think about what next we can do and continue to keep entertaining our guests who are coming in. And that way, we should continue to build our brand stronger and healthier. Right? That's the only way to move forward.
That is extremely insightful, and that's awesome. I think I completely agree with you that one cannot really wait for the market to fully recover. In fact, some of our actions will help you recover at an individual level, and that is something which I was advising a fellow restaurateur a couple of days back. I said, I'm not too sure if you will recover first or market will recover first. I think you need to really watch for yourself. Ramya, on that, one thing which has always intrigued me is, especially the businesses which who are hotel first and the restaurant second, and I'm just taking the liberty there. Do correct me if I'm wrong. Have hotels invariably end up placing less focus on the restaurant and probably its service and the food, because a large part of revenue comes from the room service, and somehow you get that captive audience in your restaurant from the hotel occupancy. I'm sure some of that has changed, because in the COVID times I also saw a shift where a lot of hotels actually started discovering an asset inside their building, which was the restaurant, and they realized that okay, probably this is something which was not given enough value. Just to clarify, I know that Nandana has been focusing on the food and the restaurant side as well, and you get a lot of people who are not staying inside the hotel. But what's your new mix of revenue or new mix of focus is in this recovery time? How do you look at life from here to 1.5 years?
Okay, so for us, ideally, the restaurant business is the core, right? So that contributes to a majority, to a huge, almost 90% of the revenue, right? So hotel division is still considerably small for us. And in a normal scenario, we would just, have the hotel just as probably, the younger sister of the main, the main business is how we were looking at it. So ideally I would like to take a few examples of what we did during, how we aim to pump up our numbers during COVID, and how probably then after how we see ourselves going. So during you mentioned about loyal customers as well, right? So during the time of COVID, our focus, in fact, was our loyal customers, right? So those who have dined with us to the longest of the time. We are a 3-decade-old brand. So we started way back in the 1980s. So we have few loyal customers who, in fact, many loyal customers who have been coming to us since decades. So our focus was just to focus on them and gain back their confidence. So one quick example is what we did was during when we were just only operational for dining during lockdown, we called all our regular customers. We like telecall them, and first, as initiative, just to inquire about their well-being, right? Just to inquire about the well-being, and and also at the same time share few safety and hygiene precautions to them.
I'm sorry, Ramya. I'm just curious. When you say that you actually called your loyal customers, I'm just curious. Can you share like what kind of volume we are talking about? Like this must be really numbers, or was it like some sort of club you maintain?
Looking at hitting 3 lakh, but we somewhere hit only 60% of that.
Wow.
So but by then the lockdown was the unlock took place. So, but the interesting part is when we called our customers, right? In a normal scenario, when any organization calls, probably they won't even listen to 50% of the call because of their busy schedules. But at this point of time, the response was very, very positive. So, in fact, how we approached is first we inquired about their well-being, right? And in addition to that, we shared few safety and hygiene precautions, what we think was important for them to implement back home. I mean, first, the mandatory is, of course, wear a mask, wash your hands regularly, maintain social distancing. In addition to that, when you procure fruits and vegetables, ensure you wash them thoroughly. If you're preparing meat, do ensure that you, cook it in 165 degree Fahrenheit and more, just to kill all sorts of bacteria. And so this also meant that these were the same systems implemented back at Nandana as well. So in addition to this, we also told them that, if you would like to order and consider Nandana as a second home, you would definitely find an outlet closest to your house. The fact that we have 15 branches located, all around Bangalore. And the response was very, very positive. I think 90% of them responded very positively. And
did that convert to orders as well? Did you see that?
Definitely, right? Now that we're actually tracking it, if not probably direct delivery orders, but definitely many of them have come back for dining.
No, awesome. I think that's a fantastic lesson in communication. This is when you are talking about the SOPs and the hygiene. And when you are telling the customer or sensitizing the customer about what they should take care of in their life, it automatically instills a confidence in them that you are already doing it. You as a brand is taking care of it at your side, and I'm sure some of it will 100% convert to the business. Biraja, I have a question for you, and after that we will quickly take up some audience questions. We're getting a lot of questions here. Biraja, I have seen this very interesting phenomena in the country where, on one side, so many restaurants are shutting down, they're suffering, people are not able to meet out their costs and whatever, how the wheel got stopped suddenly without notice in March, most of the people are not able to clear their backlogs. But the interesting thing is that, world is glass half full, half empty, right? So there is this other side of glass half full where I saw a lot of people in the country who were not restaurateurs, who were not in the restaurant business, who were in some other traditional business, some other traditional sector, and their business completely got locked down because of the actual, the country lockdown. And then they saw that, wow, restaurant business is still running. We are still ordering deliveries, and I heard so many people saying, what, restaurant business is brilliant. They always run. And this time even salons were shut down, but restaurants did not shut down. Although they were not really probably looking at the realities of the margins and how restaurants were bleeding. My question is, have you received tons of franchise inquiries, or is it a time when you believe that franchising has gone through the roof, at least in terms of the potential? Did you experience some of that, some of those tailwinds already, or are you looking forward to take on franchising as a route rather than a company-owned restaurant, given that all of us became present to the liabilities? So it's a two-part question.
The COVID, like during this period, we are all clear that F&B business is no more a fancy business. We need serious players here. The ecosystem has to be stringent enough. So because of fancy players, the serious players are also impacted because of offers and all these things. So definitely our expansion plan has not taken any pause, and we have received good number of queries, and we are as well coming up in 5 more cities in next 1 quarter. Probably this month we are opening up in Pune, we are opening up in Coimbatore, Bangalore, 1 more outlet. So things are going on in the right direction for us. But yeah, it has become, you have to be more ethical to the business, and you have to give the customer back what they're expecting. So as an industry, as the portfolio of our business, it was more a dine-in sort of business. It was not much of delivery. So our 80% revenue used to come from dine-in. But during this COVID, when dine-in was locked completely, the same consumers have started ordering the product. So for us, our focus was never on dine-in, because as a grilled burger, as an authentic grilled burger, which is juicy, which is saucy, the moment you take it on delivery, then you lose
It's not
20% of the product.
the same burger anymore.
Yeah. So now we are forced to re-engineer ourselves. We are forced to re-engineer our product, our aspects of thinking, and come up with a new menu where we can elevate our top line by adding this online sales. So typically, overall, at T2, T3 cities for us, our revenues have grown up.
Got it.
By 120% as what it used to be previously. For T1 cities, yeah, it is still, because population is not there and a lot of people have moved to their native. So we are pretty confident that within a quarter of time we will be back to normal.
Will you take the route of franchise only, or will you take the route of having more company-owned stores, given that we've already seen the load a company-owned store can bring to a single person?
So as of now, we are not a funded company. So franchises have funded us. So whatever the outlets we do have are franchise outlets, but they are operated by us. So we don't give the operation to a franchise.
Oh wow, okay. You are a FOCO model. You're a franchise.
We are a typical FOCO model where we take complete pain of making the franchise each and every concerns to be clarified. Yeah, that's one of the toughest model that exists. But yeah, we don't have any other choice, because fund is required, expansion is required, and survival is required.
I think Biraja, I will tell you that is one of the toughest, but that is actually my favorite model, because I believe that model genuinely pressurizes the franchisor for all the right things, which is partnering with the franchisee for the right reason. And, I think both are playing their best suit, there. Brilliant one on that. We'll take few questions from the audience. We have 5 more minutes to go. So one question is from Dipanshi, wherein she's asking, in this current scenario, is it a good time to start a restaurant bar? Given that property is going out of business, would be available at much easier. So I think Pravesh, would you like to take a dig at that? Given that so many properties are going to be available, so much infrastructure is going to be available at cheap, and will be much easier, relatively easier to get the license, etc. So one can think of recovering the cost faster. Is it a good time to start a restaurant bar, or should people wait for some 3 to 6 months?
And to each its own, I guess. My thing would be that, coming from the experience of opening many restaurants, it's very easy to open a restaurant, but it's equally very difficult to run a restaurant. So if you have a very solid model, which I really don't know the model of the business, but one thing I would like to share, that there's a very famous saying by Dr. C.K. Prahlad, that fortune lies at the bottom of pyramid. Most of the bars focus on the top, try to make it very, very capex heavy, the decor, interiors, and the prices of the menu are slightly higher. If you are trying to get into the business, don't try to be one of these existing bars. Be extremely creative, think out of the box. If you can create a bar for the larger audience, or the bottom of the base, or slightly lower in the pyramid, I think you will still get some business at this point in time. So this is my feedback to you.
Got it. Our friend Shakir from Empire. Hey Shakir, he's asking Ramya, how are you handling these staff shortage issues in these times? And if anybody else wants to also take a post, Ramya, this is, I'm sure, a question pestering everyone.
Right, so that is actually been a very big challenge for us. So, what we have essentially done is just during lockdown itself, we have been in touch with, all our employees, right? So since the beginning, those who were not called back as well, we've been in very regular touch with them. Either we've come on Zoom tools, got on to different team building activities, or even for that matter, just been on calls, in regular touch with them. So thereby, that also gave them the confidence that we're going to call them very back soon. So once we opened up, it was considerably easy for us, to inform all of them that, hey, you can be back now, and hence even they didn't look out for for other opportunities. So this is what we did. But having said that, there's still a long way to go. Staff shortage is a challenge. We're yet to very positively overcome it.
Got it. Pravesh, any Pravesh or Biraja, would you like to take that up? The staff shortages, how are you handling?
Yeah. So Ashish, quickly, there is obviously a major issue, and because 83% of that workforce which is working in Bangalore in restaurant business is migrant workforce. They're all especially the seven states have taken that workload of restaurants. We are trying to get their flight tickets done. We are trying to get their tickets done. That's the kind of investment I can see we have to make right now, especially. And the old guys have not really bothered to come back. The lower level guys, especially the housekeeping guys, are the biggest challenge. I'm sure Shakir must be having the same issues as well. So what we also did in Releski quickly, this is not a pitch, but I'm just saying that we discovered a special number, and a WhatsApp bot which we rolled out to a lot of people. We wanted to help the restaurant industry because we knew that people are going unemployed, and when the market gets better, they will look forward for getting jobs. So that WhatsApp bot has been a sort of an automatic bot response which people have registered upon. There are about 30,000 odd people. We are also so there is database, but the trains are not working from Assam and other states. That has been a challenge. But I would probably speak to Shakir on this separately.
I think for all of you, Pravesh has started this a new venture called Releski. That is actually going to, it promises to solve all your woes around sourcing and training staff in hospitality, and I think who better than Pravesh could have done that. So Biraja, we can have your thoughts in case you want to contribute to the shortage of people, given that you're operating 32 stores. I'm sure this was a problem in a very different way for you, and we'll end with that question. We are getting a lot of them, but I think we will figure out a way to pass on those questions to all of you to answer later.
From our end, typically we invested on equipment. So we automated some of the equipments which were needing staff support. Let's say in a kitchen we have 5 employees. So we automated the fryer, we automated the griller, where that task can be done by 2 or 3 employees, given a particular amount of time.
Are you saying you did that during the COVID times?
We did that with the support of technical company.
During the COVID times, or did you do that before?
So it was under progress, but during the COVID time, we got enough time to focus on that, and that thing was right perfect. So with the support of that, definitely, and throughout the period, we have retained all the employees.
That skilled people was not really a challenge, and now you have enough people to actually operate things just by SOPs.
Yeah. Right? So from day one, the product that we deal with are not the raw materials, ground raw materials. They are a processed raw material. So SOPs plays a major role. So for us, yeah, definitely we have not faced a lot of staff issues, and we have retained end-to-end employees throughout the period.
Awesome. I think that is awesome. These kind of things are super to hear in these times. All the positive ones are welcome. We are out of time, guys. But this was really, really insightful. Some